Hi there, welcome to the Raising Cinephiles podcast, a show about passing on your love of cinema to the next generation. I'm your host, Jessica Cantor, and I have worked in all facets of the entertainment industry for the last 20 years, and recently became a mom. Always remember that myself and guests are speaking from personal experience and not giving parenting advice. Let's go ahead and dive into the episode. Today I have two guests, Grant Garry and John Farley. Grant directed a really meaningful film called Meet Me Where I Am about grief, and one of his subjects is John Farley. It's interesting because we are going to meet this today probably with some smiles and humor, though this film is about grief. And I'm pretty sure I brought it up on the podcast before. As a single mom by choice, I had my son, and the month before he was born, I lost my stepfather. And so I entered into motherhood also with grief and losing my support system at the same time. And so I definitely felt some of this in the movie and some of that isolation of people like not knowing how to deal with grief, and then also kind of dealing with your family's grief at the same time. So it was definitely an interesting film to watch. I actually watched it with my mom. So I really appreciate you making it and for joining me today on the podcast. So thank you both for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Wait, remind me, when it's coming out May 21st, you sent me the link. Thank you. I just looked up on my screen. It's coming out May 21st on Apple TV and Amazon Prime, and you can order it on DVD on Amazon. And one of the things I thought that was really interesting about the film is it's not just important for the people who are grieving, but it's an important watch for people who are loved ones and friends of those who are grieving, because it's from the perspective of the grievers. And I think the hardest part of being around grief is knowing what to say. And I think this is a really interesting perspective of that. So we're going to go into the movie a bit more in the interview, but I want to start how we always start, which is, what is your first movie memory? And I want to hear from both of you. Who wants to go first?
John wants to go first.
You want me to go first?
You want to.
Now, are we talking cinema or just what you remember movie-wise?
Just your first memory.
Yeah.
It can be out of order. Memory is a funny thing, you know?
Movies would be, the first thing would be going to, starting from the very beginning, would be going to American TV, in Madison, Wisconsin. I think it was American TV, or Appliance Mart. And then we bought our very first VCR. So sweet. We were looking at Betamax, and my dad was like, I think we're going VCR. So we went VCR. Man. And then we had to buy movies because there's no Blockbuster. There's no movie rental places. So we looked around and they had movies, and we bought Caddyshack, Meatballs, Blues Brothers, and History of the World, and I think one other movie, and we brought it home. So my very first movie of course, there's always Escape from Witch Mountain. I remember that, but the first one is the sprinklers in Caddyshack. That would be my very first memory. And the song, Kenny Loggins' I'm All Right song starting up.
Yeah.
That's my first really, oh my God, this is the greatest movie, device, everything. Escape from Witch Mountain had a lot, sure. But I was like, good movie. I like the popcorn. Caddyshack, that got me hooked.
I remember the gopher.
Oh, yeah. The gopher. The gopher was in it, and it was about golf, Jessica.
I don't remember the golf. I remember the gopher.
Yeah,
so it hit me.
Oh, yes. Gopher was good. They forced the gopher onto Harold Ramis, who directed that, I believe. And they forced it on him because they had a mechanical gopher, and whoever was running Paramount, was it? I don't know who produced that, but they go, we got a mechanical gopher. Like, you're going to put this in the movie, and they forced them to put it in the movie. And I'm like, where the hell are we going to put a mechanical gopher? We spent a fortune on this thing, and it's going to be in the movie. So that's what they put it in, and you remember it. That's great.
He used it twice because Groundhog's Day.
Groundhog's Day was an actual groundhog, not a gopher, and that was a real groundhog, actually. Wasn't it?
It looked the same. I don't know.
No, it was real. No, those suckers are huge. Those things are the size of your belly. And a gopher is the size of maybe your hand, fist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Groundhog is huge.
Are they
But did you
really?
remember him driving in the car? He was like the size of Bill Murray.
I don't remember it being that big, but I had just rewatched it too.
Tawny Phil, that was a good one.
Yeah, it's a
I
good
like
one.
that one. I know. Here's Jessica. You're going to ask me and Grant, but I want actually Grant, you go next, and then Jessica, you tell me yours.
Okay.
Thanks, John. Let's see. So I was told, and I remember that the first VHS we owned in our house was Cinderella, the cartoon. And then I remember going to the movies. I must have been like 4, 5, I don't remember. Yeah, something like that. I remember going to the movie theater to see the first Home Alone, and then we walked out because I got scared at the furnace scene.
Oh my God.
Terrifying. I still get scared. And then we're talking early memories, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
First memories, actually, Jessica.
Yeah, first memory.
Yeah, so that would have probably been those two were pretty early on. But if I was to move forward a little bit, one of my favorite movies, as John knows, is Beverly Hills Ninja.
Yeah, very good one. It's a very good movie.
Yeah, Beverly.
You haven't seen it, Jessica.
I have not seen it. I just when he said that, it reminded me of Big Town Little China. Is that
Big Town? Kurt Russell.
Yeah, I
Big
love
Trouble
that
in
one.
Little China.
Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah.
That was a favorite. I watched that a lot of times.
Yeah, it was a great one.
It was a good one.
The one that drove me nuts because we always had HBO and we didn't have DVRs that you could record or no streaming. Mm-hmm. So you watch whatever HBO put in front of your face. And by God, if they didn't play that damn Short Circuit movie 3,000 million times, it was about a robot that was like quirky and went crazy, or no, it became like human. And they're all like, "Don't kill it. It's human." And I'm a robot, and it's short circuited. And then the army was after it because it was intelligent. And eventually, I think it just went off into the sunset. We freed a robot. And I was like, God dang it. Not again.
It's really relevant now, Short Circuit, I think, with
Probably.
ChatGPT. I love that movie, actually. And it was a precursor to WALL-E, which
you watched Short Circuit? Now, what
did.
if you had to watch Short Circuit after school every day, 3:30, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? You're like, good Lord, that's on again? And it was for 6 months. And you were like,
I liked it, and it might be why I studied computer science.
Oh my God, Jessica, you're kidding me. I totally went, I guess I could have been smarter if I just would have opened up.
Yeah,
I got angrier and angrier, and you opened up to it. See, that's what happens. You open up to new ideas.
So Short Circuit and Gremlins to me were cousins.
Gremlins.
Yeah, they were cousins to me. I didn't discriminate between the robot and the monster.
Okay. But the kid really messed up by throwing water on the gremlin. You're not supposed to do that.
You throw water on the monster too. I mean, on the Short Circuit, right? I mean,
oh, that's right, he did. Oh my God, you remember the movie? I tried to block it from my brain, and you actually made it a life goal. I feel horrible now. I feel like I really messed up. I need a time machine.
So I feel like the more I have these conversations, the more my first memory changes of movies, because memory's fluid thing.
Right.
So Cinderella actually is a movie that is one that I don't actually remember watching, but I remember dressing up as Cinderella. I remember singing the song every time I had to do a chore. I don't know if that was obnoxious or if it was just, I still do it. I still sing Cinderella when I do the dishes, but I absolutely love that movie as a little girl.
It's funny how things like that can affect us too. I was talking to somebody yesterday about how, like, when you're a kid and you watch a movie and you love a character so much, you just want to play like them or be like them in your daily life as a kid, just like walking around the day, singing songs or doing movements like a certain character. It's really interesting how it can have that effect on us.
Yeah, I always picked the fringe version. Like I liked the rags version of Cinderella. not the
Mm-hmm.
dress, the princess version. Like I
Mm-hmm.
like the rag dress better than the princess dress. And like Grease,
Yeah.
I've told this story before with Grease. Like there was a sock hop at school. Everyone wore the poodle dresses, and I dressed in black leather, and I
Right.
was like the bad girl Sandy. And
Yeah.
I was always like the wrong version, like societally wrong. But so I got
What do
them.
you make of that?
I don't know. Counterculture. Another one that I loved as a teenager, and as I got older, I started to look up the filmmakers and that's why I declared myself a cinephile, because of what I was attracted to as a kid. Was
Yeah.
like Crybaby. Do you remember Crybaby?
Johnny Depp.
John Waters. I loved that movie. I would watch it homesick from school. That was one of the ones that I would put on, like it was on TBS or something.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Crybaby, along with Peggy Sue Got Married. Those in that
Mhm.
same era or the same time frame, or
Yeah.
roughly.
Or the one with Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn when they tried to live forever is a comedy, and they had, oh my gosh, who was in it? They would paint their faces and their
Right. Were they witches? No.
no, they were competing for the same guy.
Right. Ever Happily Ever After, or no? It was
Oh
like,
my God, I'm gonna have to Google. I'm sorry.
Google it. So then, if you're going along there, here's one that nobody never knows, and I really liked it only because I had to go. I didn't have to. I went to boarding school. Oh, what was it called?
Death Becomes Her.
Death Becomes.
Oh yeah,
Her. Right.
yeah. I think they're doing a Broadway show of that now. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
That
was a good one, and the one with Lily Tomlin and was it Kevin Kline, or he's back in Bowl and they switched bodies or something. Lily Tomlin was in it. I don't remember the name of it. I don't know. And he kept going back and board. They had to like put their soul in a bowl, and then it went into somebody else. But of course, there's always a bad person that wants to take the soul.
I don't think I saw that one.
Yes, you had to have. Maybe not. That was a good one. Foul Play, seems like old times. And then there's one that I like that it was, God, what was it called? Now I'm losing it. Judd Nelson in Private School, or no, it was called Head of the Class.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about.
Judd Nelson, and he went to boarding. So Arnold Palmer Woodrow was a rich kid that was like, I don't want to go to another boarding school. So he went off to wherever to play golf, and he paid homeless Judd Nelson to go to boarding school for him and pretend he's Palmer Woodrow, but he was like from the streets. So
I remember that one.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And he fell in love with Lacey. I think it was Lacey.
Making the Grade?
That's the one, Making the Grade. You should watch that one. I think Andrew Dice Clay's in it. Another genius. So that was one of my favorites. I watched that a lot. And then
so you said you were in boarding school?
Yes, I went to boarding school in Rhode Island.
Okay.
Portsmouth Abbey in Newport, Rhode Island, or in Portsmouth, Rhode Island, right next to Newport. And that was fun, though, because all my brothers went off to college. And so my parents were like, all 5 are gone. And then I go, nope, just 4. The 5th one's still here. And they go, Johnny, how'd you like to go to boarding school?
I find that the younger siblings of families tend to watch movies that maybe are emotionally inappropriate for them.
I'll give you that instance. Hollywood Nights, where they said, New Bomb Turk. She goes, did you come, New Bomb? Did you come? That was a horrible line. And all I heard was, and I was watching it on the VCR. I was like, eh. And all of a sudden, I heard my dad's footsteps. He was a big guy. And he was coming from the living room through the dining room. And I'm like, oh, dear God, oh, dear God. And I'm trying to stop it. And he goes, what is this? And the best part was he didn't know how to operate any of that stuff. So he first he hit stop. And then he goes, I'm sure remembered his head, be kind, rewind. So he rewound the whole thing, took it out of the VCR, took a hammer and smashed it. And I was like, oh. And then all my brothers go, what an idiot. You ruined our movie, Johnny. It was a funny one.
I will say that my sister's 4 years younger than me, and she absolutely would watch all the movies that were barely appropriate for me at the time, at the same time, like I would see them. So I feel like I must have been in elementary school. It was probably like 20 years ago or something when like American Pie came out. As like
Right.
a 13 or 14-year-old boy, like that was like you wanted to watch that so bad. And then I feel like for whatever reason my parents let my sister watch it too. It was just like not even appropriate. Shouldn't even have watched it at the time, and then she watched it too. So there was a number of situations like that.
How did you develop your own taste growing up?
I hopefully don't have a taste. I don't want to. I like to discover gems and find different things. That's the beauty about movies. Is I hope somebody doesn't have a taste. If somebody has a taste in movies, then they don't open up to. And I love it when the movie title fools you, like 500 Days of Summer. You're like, oh, this is a dumb summer rom-com thing. And it's no, Summer was the girl's name. And I was like, oh, this is a fun one. If I don't know anything about it, I like comedy, of course, is always the best. But with you, Jessica, it's hard to make me laugh. But when I do, it's the best. But I do fun movies that I didn't see coming. That would be my best taste would be I'm an explorer and I want to find that. But I'll watch anything. What I do is I'm scared. I have a fire stick in the kitchen and I don't want to watch a movie my wife might want to watch. So I am just a connoisseur of. He was a rogue mercenary, and they kidnapped his daughter. Now he's coming out of hiding and gonna kill everyone. I know every one of those from Netflix, and because I know she's not gonna want to watch that. So I'm like, all right, I'm safe to watch these kind of movies. So I know any ex-CIA movie you could name, I've got it.
So is watching movies like a solitary type of experience for you?
No, I'm usually cleaning the kitchen or doing the laundries in there. And then my wife is getting all the kids like, all right, get the showers, get the toothbrushes, get all that taken care of. And I'll do everything in the kitchen. And so if it doesn't involve parenting, I can watch TV. But if I was watching the Expendables while trying to brush my kids' teeth, that's not probably a good idea. So if I'm all alone, I can watch whatever I really want. As long as it's not, oh yeah, baby, deeper. And then my wife's, what's going on in the kitchen? As long as it's just gunfire, we're fine.
Yeah.
Correct, Grant? Grant, don't shake your head at me. Grant Casey and limoncellos. Grant's family owns a nut farm.
That's a separate podcast.
Oh, sorry.
A nut.
Dried fruit and nuts. And John likes one of our products, which are limoncello almonds. They're candy coated. They're candy coated almonds, and they are delicious. I will say.
Yeah, I do these podcasts and things like that for basically limoncellos. I did the movie for limoncello, I think.
And Grant, how did you develop your taste?
It was just something I was always interested in. Movies were always so cool to me from a young age, whether it be a comedy or definitely as a kid, and even more as I do enjoy comedies. They've changed, however. They've changed since the days of Chris's film. I don't think you see films like Chris Farley films anymore. They're not the same. But also the style of comedy has changed. You think of movies, Chris's films, or even like Jim Carrey films, and the style I don't think would necessarily resonate with audiences today, because I think audiences have gotten smarter too, especially when you have things like Arrested Development, where it's like more deadpan, and audiences have started to realize, oh, that's why it's funny, because in their world they think everything is serious to them, as opposed to the hijinks of a Chris Farley film, which was a separate style of comedy. And of course, a very physical comedy, which I always very much enjoyed. I very much enjoyed Chris's physical comedy. People like Chris Kattan, I always enjoyed their physical comedy and their styles. So it was just something like as a kid and as an actor too, like I would try and emulate some of these guys when I was, do impressions of them or quote their quote the lines from the film. I still do that today. So I think, like John was saying, it's just I just want to see a good movie. I couldn't care less if it was a rom-com or a drama or anything. I just want to see a good film. There are some rom-coms that are some of my favorite films. There's some comedies that are some of my favorite, and there's some dramas, and throw in a Fast and Furious movie or two. Like, I'm there.
What about you, Jessica? What's your particular taste in movies?
So for me, it's all about what I want to feel on that moment. So
Right.
like movies for me are about like catharsis. Sometimes I do want a laugh. I have trouble with the like Arrested Development type of comedy because I feel like I'm on the outside of the joke a lot of the time.
Interesting.
And I sometimes feel like I just don't get it, or I'm not smart enough to get it, or I just don't. Like,
Jessica, do not worry. I did the show and I don't know what I did.
Okay.
So
I'm like,
I was just like, they go, what? I hear my lines. I go, what am I doing? I was a priest doing a wedding, and the girl ran out of the wedding. And I go, what do we do now? She goes, now it's a bar mitzvah. And I cut to, we taking Michael Cena and hoisting him in a chair, and I had a rabbi outfit on. And then that was cut. No, it was good to the next scene. I go, what did I just do? What's going on in this show? I had no clue, but I was just happy to do it.
Yeah. But so I appreciate, that's why physical humor. I was a dancer, so I like the use of the body in that way. I think it helps tell the story a lot. I also love when the camera is used well in comedy. I think that's forgotten a lot.
Yeah.
Sometimes people rely a lot
huge
on just the actors, and I think it's all part of the story. So but also I don't know, there's something like, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard it, but there was something really intimidating as a girl in comedy growing up, because I felt like the boys would tell jokes and it was like, and they would quote lines in a way that felt like it wasn't for me. And
there is an element of that.
And so I was like I was always just kind of like, am I allowed to be part of this joke? Am I allowed to laugh at this? Is this for me kind of comedy? So there's a little bit of revisiting that, and I love that I have a very like snotty boogery boy that I'm raising, that I get to revisit that, like the Monty Pythons of things that I didn't get to feel like it was for me when I was growing up.
I always loved because I was friends with a lot of girls growing up, and I always loved when one of the girls would jump in with a quote too, and I'd be like, "Oh, you're funny too. Oh, you think that's funny too. That's awesome." So it was always like, but there is certainly an element of
and I think it just depends on the boys you were around. Like sometimes the boys weren't inclusive of us, and so it was like the club of them getting rowdy, and we just, if I wasn't in on it or I didn't totally get it, I was intimidated to be part of it. So like when some of the like the Bachelorette type of movies started coming out, and like the female versions of them gave permission to start getting in and laughing. Like one of my first entertainment jobs at Sony, in development at Sony, my boss was friends with John Cleese, and it was like very cool when he remembered my name. I was like, he would call, really cool. And remember, he was just rad. And so I was like, oh, I better revisit that stuff that I felt wasn't for me, because he's pretty cool. So
he's so cool.
Yeah. So I definitely felt
As I had grown up was Goldie Hawn. We had Goldie Hawn, but we did have Madeline Kahn, Cloris Leachman, and as opposed to Tina Fey's and the Amy Poehler's, and we had Carol Burnett too, who we loved in our family. Carol Burnett was the best. We would quote those bits and all that. But yeah, and it wasn't until the Bachelorettes of the Kristen Wiggs and that the girls probably could start throwing out some funny one-liners. And the Melissa McCarthy, dear God.
Yeah.
That woman's
hilarious.
Yeah. Like I think it could have also just been how my brother and father engaged a little bit with the Mel Brooks, that it was like kind of like their thing. And my mom would take me more to the beaches and the Steel Magnolias. And I was kind of like, but I was allowed to have the good cry, but I wasn't invited to the laughs as much. So
that's sad, Jessica. I'm sorry.
It was sad for me, but I found them later.
That's good. Yes.
Yeah. But So I wasn't as invited to the comedy party until
That's
later.
all right. Don't worry about it. We brought our sister to the comedy party, and then she let out a huge fart in the middle of the living room, and my mother would be like, "Barbara Ann, that's enough. You're not a boy." And she'd be like, "I'm sorry. You guys trying to be like Chris and Dad." And you're lucky. You experience it later, and then you're fine. The
But
boys are all jerks anyway, and they were quoting stupid lines. You were another joke.
I feel like I had Mr. Ed. Like I would get late night TV. I would get that kind of comedy. And like I love Lucille Ball. Like I got her.
Oh yeah. She was fun.
Yeah.
She was hilarious. Lucille Ball, and then I'd watch Coming Home from School. What were your after school or morning TV shows?
I didn't watch so much.
We didn't have we had WGN Chicago, the clown, Bozo the Clown.
So it's interesting. I watched movies a lot in high school. TV, I was a competitive gymnast and then a ballet dancer.
Sweet
so
Jesus.
I would watch movies, and then I had a TV in my room. So I did 90210 and like My So-Called Life. And then I would watch movies with my family.
Right.
And then I remember I would watch late night TV. That's why I had Mr. Ed and whatnot, because I would be doing homework when I got home from school, home from practice after school.
It was 90210, and the other one was Melrose Place, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I remember all the guys at Second City in Chicago were like, "What the hell are you doing, Farley?" Because all the girls in the cast would watch those shows. And I'm like, "Oh my God, did you hear what happened?"
There goes John.
I was like totally in with the girls, and the guys were like, "I don't know what the Farley's doing." Because I was very guy-ish and farting and burping and slamming beer. But when it came to those kind of Melrose Place, I'd go right to the girls' side and be like, "Let's dish."
Those shows were like, they were fun.
They were fun.
Those. And I have to say, one of the fun things about this podcast and parenting with movies and TV is it's a great way to talk to your kids about what they're about to experience. Like I've been watching, my son is really into Train. He's 2.5. And
don't get into Thomas. Those things are ridiculous. And the kid's going to want to get a Thomas. And every one of those little stupid trains are $25.
So we have the Brio set right now all set up and choo-chooing. And we've been to Travel Town and we sit on the trains. And
that's a fun. We had a birthday there once. That was fun.
Oh, we go to a birthday party there like every other weekend. Now, even when we lay on the couch, I'll lay on my side and he sits in the crook of my leg and I'm Mama Train and he's right like in the Mama Train. That's how we come.
Really?
Yeah. It's like all trains all the time.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But anyway, there's like a scene in Polar Express. The little boy gets bullied. And so we talk about, do we like this? And he goes, no. I say, I don't want you to touch me like that. We use our words. And so we talk through the scenes and all that stuff. And then on the playground the other day, a little boy came over and he goes, no, don't touch me like that. And at 2.5, he was able to use his words.
Done.
I felt like I was very proud of myself as a good mama.
That's a very good. My kids use their fists to stop bullying. Don't bully me or I will kill you. Yeah. But we teach the communication thing. My wife's really good at that communication stuff.
Yeah. Improv is that, right?
Yes.
Yes. And
very much so. Yes.
You're hitting me and I hit you back.
That's right. That's how we like to play. Let's play rough. And then we all make it like we're joking. Let's play.
It's so fun. I crush you with my teeth, right, Mama?
Yeah. What is it? One time our kids went into a jumper, and Farleys are notorious for basically rock hard heads. And they went in there, and he went in there with a kid with a melon the size of a watermelon. It was huge. And they were roughhousing, and I go, I was feeling a little trepidatious about this whole thing. I don't know if that's a good word. I was a little nervous. And the mother was like, oh boy, I hope he doesn't hurt your child. And I go, I think it's going to be the other way around. 2 seconds later, gone. The kid with a giant watermelon head came out with a huge knot. And my kid came out going, what happened? I don't even know. Sorry, buddy. He goes, you hit me with our heads collided. And my kid's nothing. We'll stand at a Little League game. Everyone goes, ooh. And I go, no worries, everybody. I didn't feel it. It's fine. I've been hitting the head quite a bit. Yeah. We don't, what are we talking about? Oh, we're using communication in words, I think.
And film and TV as like a way
as a
to
media for
model.
learning
Yeah.
things. Yes. Yeah, we try and keep my wife. It's hard because I was the youngest, as you said, and our governor gets taken off a little bit. The PG-13. We didn't have PG-13. We had watched Jaws, was older, and that was a PG movie.
Yeah, PG-13 wasn't until Temple of Doom came out, and then that's what caused the rating change, I believe. Yeah, because by the third one, by the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, that was PG-13. And you think about it, those first two Indiana Jones films were PG, and one, there's like Nazis melting, and then the second one, he rips out a guy's heart, and you're like, that should be R.
Yeah,
like that should be rated R. But
if they didn't have 13, it should go R. But they were like, there's no tit, we're fine.
Yeah, there was not. Yeah, that's wild to look back at. At some of those movies.
Yeah,
some of those older films that were just PG that would have absolutely been PG-13 at least by today's standards now. Yeah,
our youngest gets to. We had to tone it back a little bit with it. We have to wait till he goes to bed. He's 9, and the other two are 17 and 18. So he grew up with like Power Rangers because when he was like 3, they were 9. They're like 8 years apart, and that's a lot. But that was SeaWorld for you. God, that's a romantic place, Jessica. Don't go there; you'll get pregnant. 8 years later, and that's where Crosby came along. And we had to realize that the 9-year-old's taste in movies isn't good for a 2-year-old. So we were like, let's dial down the swordplay, people.
And then with your kids, are you finding that they have similar or different tastes in things?
Well, thank God for COVID, because I got to have COVID with the oldest boy. And I go, sweet. It was the COVID, not the Netflix COVID where you get to sit and watch it. I got to be isolated. Sorry, everybody. It was the actual one, but we still could watch Netflix and hang out. So we were isolated in the back room, and I showed him Caddyshack, Meatballs. I got to show him all the old school classics, and he loved it. He liked Spalding and Caddyshack, but I wish we should watch Stripes. That was pretty good. I liked it. He liked it. But it's fun to be able to show him all the. You see it. You remember a movie. You go, "Ooh, I got to show it to him before he goes to college." And so I got one summer left here before he goes off to college. So,
what's top of your list to get in there before he goes?
Top of the list to get in to have him see. What's a good one? He's seen a lot. I watched and listened to my little brother. And Netflix had Beverly Hills Ninja up on one of the top comedy movies, and it was up there. And he clicked on it, and he doesn't know who Chris is. And he was
there was that one night, John, when we were all together and we were watching old clips. Remember, you were showing old clips of Chris to the kids,
right?
They were watching, and it was interesting to see them watch their uncle on screen in that way. I think they were pretty captivated by his performances.
Yeah, it's fun to watch because the 9-year-old watches YouTube a lot, and then every once in a while you hear a YouTuber throw out one of Chris's words. That'll leave a mark. Or holy shnikes, that was crazy. I go, hey, that's your uncle's bit. They obviously have seen something of Chris, your uncle's, and he's confused. What do you mean? How would Mr. Beast know Uncle Chris? I go, I don't know. I'm sure he does, though. If he's quoting holy shnikes and says that'll leave a mark, he obviously knows Uncle Chris. And he's confused. Oh, sorry. He's trying to. There's a teeth cleaning for somebody today. No, I can't get out of it.
So that's a good segue. And have you like deliberately shown your kids stuff of your brothers, or
now and again? Well, usually if we go over to a friend's house, they go, let's watch some of the best of Chris Farley stuff. And I go, okay. And then I'll just give them the story behind each little bits, whatever he's done, where it came from, and what he always used to say about it. So that's fun to do.
Well, and the funny thing about that too, a lot of people don't know, John and their other brother Kevin make a lot of appearances in those older films too. Like in Tommy Boy, they're at the wedding scene, right? And then
Oh
at
yeah,
and Beverly Hills Ninja, you guys are the cops at the end, and then you're
yeah,
security guards in Black Sheep, and you're just, and even on some of the SNL scenes sketches you were in,
oh
right?
yeah. We did. I
Chris,
did one with. Anytime I went to New York, Chris would always throw me in there. Oh, it was
awesome.
just me, Kevin. Nobody else got to do it because nobody else was in comedy yet. It was just me. Kevin didn't start doing comedy till later, and Tommy doesn't do it, and Barbara Ann doesn't do it. So I was the only one. So when we went and visited, he'd be like, Johnny, and he got me my SAG card early. I did Roseanne, the Roseanne Barr TV show. So that when I was in Chicago doing Second City, I told everyone in the cast at Second City, I go, I'm going out to Los Angeles to do Roseanne. And they were like, oh my God. So I got to do that. But every residual for Roseanne, which it plays 1,000 times, they cut my little scene out. I'm like, God. So no residuals.
I
But
watched Roseanne a lot, actually. It was one of the comedy shows I would watch a lot with my family.
oh, really?
Yeah,
I
that was
did
one
one
we
where
watched.
there was loose meat sandwich at the diner there. It was the later years. But then, so when we went to New York, I got on with Bill Murray. I got on with, who's another couple hosts? I did a Gap Girls. I did
That's right. That's right.
Gap Girls, Bill Murray, and I did something with, who was that really tall basketball player? Ante Tequila was like, I don't know. He was like the last, he was the first.
Kareem
Like,
Abdul-Jabbar,
no, he was like the first 7'2" in the
Yao
seven.
Ming,
Huh?
Yao
Yao Ming,
Ming.
same like him, but he was from Nigeria or something. His name was,
Oh,
he was huge, giant. One of those guys that his head touched the rim or it was like touching the bottom of the net. So you just have to
wow.
hold his hands up there, but he was really skinny. And they did a bit, so I was sitting next to him doing a bit. I think that Bill Murray was Whipmaster, and I went back, got done with. I was in a Western outfit, and I got done with that. And I met Bill Murray, and then I went back to the little dressing room. I don't know, it was like a closet, and all my clothes were gone. And I go, "Hey, what's going on? Are you dry cleaning my clothes?" And they're like, security, that hobo that was in the hallway, I think he's taking the clothes. And he had taken my clothes and was trying to get out of Rockefeller Center. So they gave me like khaki pants that said SNL in them. So they must have been, somebody must have worn them in Saturday Night Live. Prop khaki pants that I kept forever. And then one of the Gap shirts. But they got my clothes back, luckily. But I still kept all that wardrobe stuff. I was like, sweet. And then one time we went there and it was right before we bought my mom. Me and my brother Kevin, they were doing like dress rehearsal or something and notes. And so we went down to looking around Rockefeller Center. We found this cute little clown like brooch. And we were going to buy it from our mom. And we brought it up there and we put it in Chris's dressing room behind his chair. All right, we'll save that for that. Let's go watch a show. So we'd watch a show and then he could get out faster at the end of curtain call than we could. So he got out and said goodbye. The camera's cut and he went to his dressing room. By the time Kevin and I got back there, he was wearing the brooch. He goes, "Thanks, guys. It's the coolest clown pin ever. This is awesome." I go, "It's a brooch, not a pin, and it's for mom." "Never mind. You're welcome. Thanks for having us on Sandlot." He goes, "Yeah." And he wore it for the rest of the year. Oh, hilarious. A woman's brooch.
And he called it a clown's pin?
Yeah, he goes, "It's clown. It's a cool clown pin. I love clowns." He had, yeah. He brought my parents. He'd always buy the weirdest things. Chris would buy, first off, he'd buy like Vipers and jet boats, like he was a child. "Are you serious? You bought a jet boat for mom and dad's house?" He's, "Yeah, it's cool. It's a jet boat." I go, "Dad and mom are getting in a jet boat, Chris. Why did you get a jet boat? Why not a pontoon boat? They'd like a pontoon boat." Nah, jet boat. Fastest boat in the lake." I'm like, it's not going to help. I don't want to see mom flying out of a jet boat. And then a Viper that nobody could drive, stick shift. Good God, the thing, I crashed it immediately. And then like the gifts were clowns, this crazy ornate two clowns that go on the wall. I was like, where do those crazy spooky clowns come from? They go, "Chris, I don't know what the hell they are, but they're Chris." Like really expensive like clowns. And then one time at Christmas, I didn't have a present for Chris. So I went into the closet and there was like Barbie dolls for some reason. I don't know. Maybe from my brother Tommy's kids that would come over and they had dolls. So they're Barbie dolls. So I took a bunch of Barbie dolls and I took an empty shoebox. And then I went in the kitchen. I grabbed a bunch of knives and then I put it in there. Barbie dolls and knives. And I wrapped it up and I put it under the tree to Chris from Johnny. And then he'd open it up and it was just knives and Barbie dolls. And he started laughing his head off. And my dad was like, I don't get it. What the hell's that all about? What kind of present is that? And I go, I didn't have a present, Dad, so I thought I'd make a joke. And it was a funny joke. So he'd had something to open and it's just Barbie dolls and knives. He goes,
Jessica, just so you know, that marks the 5th time I've heard that story from John.
Thank you. So. Jessica hasn't heard it. And then, so Chris thought it'd be a funny idea for the next Christmas to get, everyone got like Hermes, Tiffany's, and Hermes and Tiffany's was basically the 2 stores he went to in Beverly Hills. And he just bought a whole bunch of that stuff. And then went to a sex store and bought a bunch of dildos, vibrators, you name it, a penis hat. And so he would open up like a Tiffany's watch or a giant ass vibrator. And he was laughing his ass off. But by the end, it was like, I've ruined Christmas. I go, nice going, Chris. You ruined it. Everyone's happy and then it's sad and sickened and then happy again. You made us all go crazy. And he goes, I'm sorry. I thought it'd be funny.
It's funny, and until you see your mom be like, thank you, secretly putting them in her sex closet.
No, she threw everything was thrown out. Thank God. That was a good one now.
Yeah.
And if anyone screws up in our family, we just go, what an idiot. You really screwed it up this time. And he'd be like, God dang it. Because last year I screwed it up with the knives and the Barbie doll, and everyone's, you're an idiot, Johnny. Dumbass. I'm like, sorry.
So, but you got the laugh.
Oh, yeah, we got the laugh. But never screw up in my family or else you get just beaten down for like the whole rest of the day at least, if not the entire weekend, and then moving on.
Yeah. So do you have, so I want to ask 1 or 2 more questions and then my final question. And I'll wrap us up.
Just my final question.
My final question. How did you guys come together for the movie?
Grant.
So I met John. I had done a show with John's wife, and I knew John before I think I knew he was Chris's brother too. And so I met John through his wife, Jennifer, and we just hit it off. We both like the similar style of comedy, and we like joking around. So anytime we'd be at a get together or something, John and I would chat and joke around. And then one day I just found out that he was Chris's brother. I didn't know that for the first like couple months of knowing John. And and then when I found that out, I was like, oh, that makes so much more sense now. This all makes sense. And I don't know, John, we've just been in contact since 2018, 19, somewhere around there.
Somewhere.
Yeah. And yeah, when it came time to do the documentary, I had talked to John and Jennifer a little bit about, hey, would you be willing to tell your story, talk about Chris? And obviously John agreed to that, and it's in the film now. And I'm just very happy that we were able to capture that, because John provides such a different perspective, I think, in the movie too, which is really nice. He implements comedy with grief and how those two things can coexist. And that was important for me to show that you can have multiple emotions and multiple feelings happening simultaneously.
Yeah. Because I don't know. I'm not real good at processing things, Jessica. So as far as grief goes, my family and I, we go therapy all you want, but we usually put on an act for the therapist. And they're like, hey, everyone, make them laugh. And they're all like, it's not time to laugh. Are you grieving in any way? Of course. Who isn't? But when it came to me, everyone else had really smart answers, and people really did deep dives into like grief. And they really had great answers. And then with me, I didn't know why. I didn't have an answer for them. We use comedy. That's how we grieve in our family. And we laugh when somebody hits their head. And then when it comes to, I guess I had a point to tell Grant, a side of the story that most people see or feel, but they don't really act on it, or they don't really talk about it because they're like, maybe it's taboo. Whereas I think our family takes it for granted. Of course, it's infinite. It's finite. You can't change it. It doesn't. You're whatever losing somebody. You can't change that. That's the one thing you really can't change. You can always talk your way out of a lot of other stuff, but you can't talk your way out of death. And then there's grief, and then you have it. And how are you going to deal with it? Well, you could react whatever your reaction is. And so our reaction is comedy, and we'll just say as funny things as we could probably come up with. And there was one that I said I don't know what it was, but it was something silly at the funeral. I don't know. Funerals can hopefully make them laugh, because I think that whoever has passed away is there, or their spirit is there, and they would get a chuckle out of it. I'm still trying to make them laugh on the other side, and hopefully they do. Hopefully they're not like, it's my funeral, you should be more respectful. Hopefully they're like, that's a good one. All right. Because Grant and I went through another one that was the theater that we met at, that the owner of that theater passed away, so we had to go to his funeral. And we were looking, and he was an open casket. His hand was up just a little bit. And I go, I think he's pointing at you, Grant. And I would think the person who passed away, I would think he would get a chuckle out of that. Wow, why is my hand like that? Dang it.
Yeah. I have for someone without a very pronounced sense of humor, I find my humor in those moments of, I'm not supposed to laugh, and so it's really funny.
Yes.
In those moments, I'm not supposed to. It's like the most inappropriate time, and I'm just hysterical laughing.
Yes, I could see that, Jessica. That's where your humor comes in.
That's where humor is like the most off color. Yeah.
Even at our friend's funeral, John got up and spoke, and it was like the first few minutes, it was like, oh, John's doing stand up right now, and it was a nice kind of reprieve of this like element of relief. And then John transitioned into speaking more seriously, and John, you did get a bit emotional, and I remember when you sat back down next to me, I was telling you how that's okay too.
Yeah,
it's both can coexist.
This side of the spectrum, I went to the premiere or screening of Black Klansman, Spike Lee's film.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And when he got up to speak, he said, "This is actually a comedy, so white folk, it's okay to laugh."
Oh really?
And he gave us permission.
Okay.
And I thought that was really interesting, because I was like, okay, because it's going to be uncomfortable, and you don't always know when it's okay to laugh.
Right.
And it's so,
that was cool.
One of those things of being a parent of a toddler, I didn't realize how repressed our culture is from our feelings, of how much we have to reconnect and learn that it's okay to feel like our feelings are our feelings, and they come up when they come up. And
right. That's one of the reasons why we made this film. That's one of the major themes of our film.
Yeah. It is what it is. And I remember I saw I went to TED Women, I don't know, maybe 7 years ago. And there was a woman, I want to say her name was Nora. She lost her husband pretty young, and she was giving a talk about grief. And I don't remember much about the talk other than one piece that stuck with me. And she was like, the thing they didn't tell me about grief was I got fucking horny, and nobody told me that was okay.
No way.
And so she was just like I lost my husband, and I just wanted to fuck everybody, and like I was still horny, and I was crying, and I was sad, and it was like profound. And she was like, your body's still your body, and you still want to be everything that you are, and there was nothing wrong with that. But I couldn't tell anybody, and I was shamed, and people shamed me for having different types of feelings.
Oh my God, that's horrible. That would shame somebody.
You're talking about, she has Terrible for Asking, right? She's the one that does Terrible for Asking, the podcast.
I know she has a podcast. She's blonde and very pretty.
Yeah. Nora McKierney?
Yes.
I don't know if
I'm and I'm probably butchering it a little bit, but It was like, I just remember like some version of that is what stuck with me.
Yeah.
It was like, oh yeah, I guess you still are human. And if you're used to
Right.
something and physicality that you don't, all of a sudden you're being starved of.
That's
Right.
when I was doing some research and stuff for the film, there are multiple stories of it. People do account for that. It's an interesting part of grief that's really not discussed, is this sort of longing for the physicality that you used to experience probably
Yeah.
more regularly, and it's just not talked
Yeah, I
about
never
because
had that with Chris, so I don't know what the hell you guys are. I never
Yeah.
felt that.
Well,
Oh,
John,
that's
I don't
great.
know, like sibling relationships there. So
I don't know. That wasn't really the way we rolled in the Farley family, but I could see that.
John just misses like people mooning him. That's not really a
Yes,
thing anymore.
yeah, the
That
big
went with Chris.
tackle. Yeah,
getting tackled. That was the best.
that was the best.
Being
Yeah,
put in awkward situations.
yeah, feeling
Yes.
like okay. I'm gonna, because we're hitting up to the hour. I want to ask you guys my last question. A movie recommendation for my son to watch as he gets older. It doesn't have to be today, so that he falls in love with watching movies.
All right. Growing in the next couple of years, you always got Sandlot. That's always a great one. Sandlot's a great one. Everyone says Holes is a good one, but I haven't. Every time they turn it on in the house here, I'm always like halfway done, and I don't understand it. But Sandlot's probably the best.
Holes, that was based on a book.
Yeah, Sandlot, Princess Bride. Princess Bride's a great one. And then you've got, as he gets older, you've got to go with the Star Wars era. And then to make him fall in love with cinema. And then you got to throw in some musicals. Grant, where are we going with this one? He's the musical guy.
Yeah, the musicals, I was going to say that too. You got to show him a musical or two, perhaps Chicago, or I really like Hairspray. Movie musicals are actually hard. That's a hard one because
the music probably.
I actually started with Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins.
Oh, there you go.
Gotta go. Mary Poppins. Yep, go there.
It's a great early musical because of
That's
Dick Van Dyke. His eyes were like just It's pretty.
That was a
mesmerizing.
fond memory with me and my family watching that one because we liked "Let's Go Fly a Kite" and "Love to Laugh." It's a great song.
The Disney cartoon musicals are good for kids too because it's not like an opera. There's 5 songs or something. So like an Aladdin or a Beauty and the Beast. I'll just say that I love those because the stories are good too, and so there's lessons in there. Same with Lion King but I would say when he's a little bit older, maybe 9 or 10, maybe, I don't know, Back to the Future. I always recommend Back to the Future.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. Yeah. Do you think Guys and Dolls is a good musical for a boy?
Yes.
Yeah, when it is, but when he's
9.5 weeks.
When he's
throw that in.
When he's older. Yeah.
9.5 weeks older, Y Tu Mama Tambien, and of course.
So early humor. What do you think first? Modern Times, like early Chaplin, or
I think you're talking about Chevy Chase and those Modern Problems.
Early Chaplin or early like Laurel and Hardy shorts, like because like silent film for 2.5, 3-year-olds, those types of physical comedy, I think would be really fun to show.
Yes, I go with I always liked Buster Keaton.
Buster Keaton.
Or who's the guy that hung off the clock? Was that Buster Keaton? Or Harry, the guy that was like, he could walk across a scaffolding over through a construction site and not fall. And they were always like, holy Jesus, watch out, you're on the edge of a building. It was Harry, I don't know. But I would go, if the earlies, I'm always a Laurel and Hardy fan. I like
Laurel and Hardy.
Yeah, Three Stooges were always a little too much violent. I was like, God, they're getting poked in the eye. There's not really much of a storyline. Laurel and Hardy, they just have Don Knotts and the Ghost of Mr. Chicken. That's a fun one. Watch that one. Ghost of Mr. Chicken. I liked The Incredible Mr. Lippet. That's a good one. So those are fun ones that you can watch now with him. And he wants to be a fish. Don Knotts wants to be a fish. And one day he falls into the ocean. And it changes from him being an old-time movie. into him being an actual cartoon fish that helps the Navy stop the Nazi U-boats or the submarines. It's a cool, it's a crazy. Jim Carrey wanted to remake that, but it was too expensive.
Maybe not now. I feel like now he can make it.
Now he could probably do it, but yeah, it'd be a good one now.
It's an odd reference, and it's moving forward in time a bit. But kids seem to love this one. Such an odd reference, but Master of Disguise with Dana Carvey, because he plays all these different characters, and they're very cartoon-esque characters. And he does all these impressions and does all these voices, and I think kids always pick up on that when they hear characters that have a really high pitched sound or a really low pitched voice or something. So I think that's a fun one that kids always seem to like.
I'm gonna rewatch that. I liked it in the theater.
Yeah, I have a little goofy giggler. He likes. I think he's gonna be one of those little fun ones.
You'll like. Watch all of Chris's and Sandler's movies. Those are the best.
Yeah.
Those are very funny.
What's the one where Chris just falls down the hill and keeps rolling? Is that Black Sheep?
That'd be Black Sheep.
And he just keeps...
that was good.
That makes me laugh till this day.
Danny was Chris's stunt double, and God, did he have to take some serious falls. And I just went to the theater and watched that Fall Guy with Ryan Gosling.
Oh, yeah.
And it just brought me back because they had some of it was Stunts Unlimited was his stunt company. And all those guys in the stunt, everyone just like, when Danny got up on set, even Chris was like, God bless you, Danny. Thank you for taking all the good luck with the refrigerator rolling down after you on the hill. And so, because they'd always keep writing worse falls for Chris. And there was one director that was, speaking of falls, there's one director that was in one of those director chairs, and I think it was Tommy Boy, and he was Bob Weiss, big old fella. And he was big, and he had a beard. You've probably seen him. He's done every movie you could imagine, but he was in one of those director chairs, and he leaned back, and he fell over, and everyone goes, oh, my God. It was one of the executives of Paramount fell over. And Chris goes, started laughing, and they're all like, good God, Chris. And he goes, that was the best. And Bob was, you got me. You're right. That was funny. I'm not hurt, but that's a good one.
It's worth noting too that it's worth noting that even though Chris didn't do all the stunts, that he did do a lot of physical stuff. He train with at a dojo and learn martial arts.
There's one at Beverly Hills Ninja where Nicolette Sheraton was like, he goes, I'll show you I'm a ninja. I'll hide. And he goes, count to 10, close your eyes. And she counted to 10, and he was running around the dojo trying to find out where to hide. And then at one point he runs out, and it's like a paper dojo. And he runs through the Japanese like paper thing. But he was supposed to go through, they had sawed a piece of the foundation of the basically the load-bearing structure.
Yeah, they scored it.
They sawed the piece that he's supposed to dive through, and he went through he went through a solid like 2x4. The things are holding up the house, and he took it all out, and he was like knocked himself out, and they had to cut for the rest of the day because they had to stitch him up. And he was like, sorry, and he was apologizing. Really sorry, I went through the wrong thing. They're like, Chris, don't apologize. That was 110%. That was very funny. And we're sorry. Don't sue the studio. And he's like, oh, I'd never do that.
Do you think Thank you so much. This was wonderful.
Thank you.
Please don't forget to like and subscribe. New episodes release every Wednesday. And leave a comment and let me know which movie you think I should show my son. Until next time, take care.